Arguing with narcissists is a very unique experience where everything you've learned about communication and rationality and anger and humanity gets turned upside down to the point where you don't even know which way is up anymore. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why arguing with narcissists is so confusing and so irrational, and hopefully give you some knowledge that will help you handle these types of situations in the future. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. I've done videos in the past about arguing with narcissists and examples on how narcissists argue, but I recently got a bunch of new subscribers and it's been a long time since I've talked about it, so I thought that now would be a great time to revisit this topic of arguing with narcissists and why it is so unique and how you really need to handle it in a completely different way from the way that you handle arguments with, quote, normal people. Arguing with narcissists can be the first thing that clues you in that something's not quite right with the way this person thinks or the way that they approach relationships. This can be the first thing that confuses you and gets you looking for answers as to why this person is arguing the way that they are. The way that they argue in circles, or the way that they get really angry over irrational things, and the way that no matter how hard you try, you can never really understand why they're upset or what it is they want from you or what kind of resolution they expect. When you get caught in the middle of these arguments, you can end up wondering what you're even fighting about. And the harder you try to understand, the more confusing it gets. It's like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall, or it's like you try to clarify one point and then some completely different topic pops up and it just goes in circles for hours. Sometimes it is exhausting, it is upsetting. And through the whole thing, you're just wondering, why is this person so upset with me? What can I do to fix this? What can I do to address their issues? What are their issues? It's so confusing. And it's like everything you say, they're hearing something else. It's like they're having an argument with somebody that you can't see or hear. The words you're saying are getting completely mixed up by the time they hit the narcissist's mind. And the harder you try to communicate, the more confusing everything gets. These arguments don't really end with any kind of resolution. They certainly don't end with any kind of clarification or having made any progress on anything whatsoever. If anything, things are much worse after these arguments. Things are much more confusing. So just as a quick example of what I'm talking about, let's say that you live with this person and one day they come home from work and the hallway light is on and they just start yelling at you for leaving the hallway light on. And somewhere in your memory, you think maybe they said something to you at some point about how important it is to turn the hallway light off. Or maybe you're thinking, yeah, I guess I should turn the hallway light off. But they're so upset. They're so angry. It's like you've committed some horrible crime. And maybe you don't even remember leaving the hallway light on. And if you say something to them like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was such a big deal to you, I'll turn the light off from now on, you will get met with more anger, increased anger, and things like, I told you 1,000 times to turn off the light. I'm tired of it. Why do I have to yell to get my point across to you? And you're trying to remember, you're trying to understand, like, what is this person talking about? I don't remember them ever telling me to turn off the hallway light. Why are they acting like they've been asking me to do this every day for the last 3 years? And they could be going on and on with things that feel this way, that just don't make sense, like saying, you never listen to me, you don't care about our electricity bill, our budget, you think I'm just made out of money. And maybe they'll say something like, I work all day long and you just sit around, when maybe the opposite is true. Or maybe they're the one who is financially irresponsible And now they're projecting that onto you and just going ballistic over you leaving a hallway light on. And when you get caught in these kinds of arguments, it's like being cornered. It's like being painted into a corner by somebody who's beating you with an emotional baseball bat. And there's no way to escape because there's no resolution. There's no way to apologize. There's no way to, promise you'll do better in the future. There's nothing you can do to calm this person down. You can't apologize. You can't explain yourself. You can't tell them that you didn't know this was such a big deal. And sometimes you might even realize that they're the one that left the light on. And even that doesn't matter. This person's just inconsolable. And none of it makes any sense. And the harder you try to calm them down, or the harder you try to communicate or come to some kind of agreement, the more confusing it gets. And I feel like I need to differentiate between the way a narcissist does this and the way that a quote normal person does this, because you might be thinking, well, I've gotten angry over silly little things before. We all lose it sometimes over something that's really small and inconsequential. And that is true. But when you are dealing with a narcissist, they are a brick wall in a way that a quote normal person is not. If a normal person gets really angry and upset over some small little thing, they are usually going to still be in the same reality with you. They're not going to depart from reality. They're not going to start going off on some tangent about something that never even happened, or start talking about how they've asked you every day for the last 3 years to turn the hallway light off when they have not done that. They aren't in some other dimension talking to somebody that isn't even in front of them, like mishearing everything you're saying. And when you are trying to reason with somebody like this, if it's a narcissist, there is no give. And I just compared it to a brick wall. That's a very good way to explain it. There is just no give. It's like pounding your fists on a brick wall. This person is absolutely not listening to you whatsoever. They are not pliable in any way. There is no reasoning with them. They are not letting down. They are not willing to be rational. A normal person, while they may get upset over something silly because they're in a bad mood, they've had a bad day, maybe they have asked you 1,000 times to turn the hallway light off and you haven't, and they just finally lose it, they're still able to calm down and be rational and eventually have a rational discussion with you about it based in reality of what really has happened or hasn't. And they will also usually allow you to apologize. Narcissists will not accept your apologies. And when you try to apologize to a narcissist for something that they are raging at you over, they see that as proof that you are guilty of this terrible thing that they're yelling at you about. Therefore, they are more justified in continuing to yell even more at you because you're admitting that you did do this terrible, awful thing. So narcissists don't hear your apology as something that they should take into consideration and, back off a little and start communicating a little bit more and maybe forgive you for whatever horrible thing you did. No, they hear your apology and they hear an admission that you did leave the hallway light on purpose to make them angry. And wow, now you're really gonna get it because you're admitting that you did this awful thing. And I also want to say that when normal people get mad at you over silly little things, it still kind of makes sense. It's not completely irrational and just totally confusing and just going off on different tangents for 3 hours, even if they overreact. So they get mad at you because you left the hallway light on. It'll make sense because you will realize, okay, they had a bad day and now they need to calm down. They're overreacting. They're in a bad mood. And it doesn't spiral out of control. And like I was just saying, they aren't going to say things like, I've told you 1,000,000 times when they have never told you not to turn or not to leave the hallway light on. And if they're actually the one that left the light on, like they're not going to keep insisting that you're the one that did it. So even if a quote normal person overreacts and gets a little too angry over something that's not a really big deal, it's still going to make sense. It isn't going to turn into this incredibly confusing, nonsensical, irrational rage fest tantrum that goes nowhere. another difference here is that quote normal people usually respond to validation and communication. So if a normal person gets angry at you for leaving the hallway light on and you say something like, I'm sorry, I know you had a bad day. I know you've asked me to turn off the hallway light and I understand you're really upset. I promise I will try to do better in the future. You know, you say something that shows them that you're listening and that you understand they're upset and that you want to try to work with them in the future, right? Most people will respond to that in a positive way if they want to have a healthy relationship with you, but a narcissist will just get more angry. They'll just get more worked up and they'll just add more accusations to the pile of like, well, how many times do I have to ask you to do it? Or why do I have to get so angry at you? Or oh, so now you're going to listen to me, stuff like that. And this is because narcissists want to argue with you. Narcissists want to have a 3-hour argument over nothing. They want to have a big, dramatic, chaos-filled night of shouting about everything and anything that's ever happened or hasn't happened in the last 5 years. They get a charge out of this. Most people don't enjoy arguing and fighting with the people that they share their lives with. But for narcissists, this is a way that they regulate their emotions at your expense. And this is because narcissists are always dealing with very uncomfortable emotions of emptiness, of worthlessness, of shame, not from the things they actually do, but pathological shame from their childhood. And they cannot handle taking accountability for themselves and their own emotions, so they are looking for a reason to blame you for the way they feel, to blame you for this worthlessness, for if they feel like they're losing control of something, if they're feeling insecure, if they're feeling especially vulnerable or unsure of themselves. They've got to find a reason that that's happening. They can't sit down and say, you know what, I have some pretty serious emotional problems that I need to address, that I need to take accountability for and work on. They just don't have the emotional capacity or maturity to do that. So instead, they usually subconsciously look for a reason to blame you for the way that they feel. So they are looking for a hallway light. They didn't come home from work and see the hallway light and then just flip out because they had a really bad day or because they have told you to turn off the light 1,000 times. They came home from work feeling insecure, feeling on edge, feeling not quite right, and looking for an excuse to take it out on you. They need a reason to unload it on you. And then they saw the hallway light. And here's the difference between a narcissist and a quote normal person. A normal person sees the hallway light and it's the last straw. And it's a negative experience or an uncomfortable experience. And it's like, ugh, and the hallway light is on. Great. And they just lose their cool, right? But when a narcissist sees the hallway light, it's actually kind of a positive emotion for a split second that they might not even be aware of. But for a split second, it's like, there it is. There's the proof that this person that I live with is the reason that I feel so crappy because they can't even turn the hallway light on. I knew it. I knew it was their fault. They're going to get it. They deserve all this venom and rage that I am going to spew all over on them. They are the emotional toilet that I am going to purge all of this negative energy onto. And they deserve it because they left the hallway light on. So for a split second, they feel good about it. They're relieved that you left the hallway light on, or somebody did, and now they have a reason to blame you for everything and really vent that onto you and punish you for the way they feel. And this is why when you try to apologize or you try to explain that you didn't know that this was such a big deal, or you try to tell them that they're the one that left the light on, or you promise that you'll never do it again and you beg them for forgiveness, none of this works. None of this has any kind of positive reaction or makes any progress for you because they don't want to make progress. They don't want to communicate. They don't care if you never leave the hallway light on again because they don't care about the hallway light. In fact, if anything, They want you to keep leaving the hallway light on, because if you start turning the hallway light off, now they've got to find a new reason to yell at you and to punish you for the way they feel. So if anything, they're kind of glad you left the hallway light on, because now they have a reason to vent all of their frustrations and negative, uncomfortable emotions onto you. And this is why they've got no answers for you when you ask them, what can I do? Or how can I make this up to you? Or what do you want from me? What do you want me to do to make this better? They've got no answers for you, because the answer is, I don't want you to make it better. I don't want you to solve this problem, because I want to sit here and yell at you. I want to sit here and have this pointless, endless argument where I just torment you until I feel better about myself, because I've purged and projected all of my negativity onto you. I want to be able to do this. I don't want a solution. That's the real answer. And that's why they can never say anything that makes any sense for you. Okay, so what do you do if you're dealing with a narcissist? If you live with a narcissist that does this? I mean, the short answer is get away from this person, cut off contact, or minimize contact as much as possible, right? But I know, at least in the short term, that's not always so simple to do. And everybody's situation's a little different. I think the first thing I want to really make sure everybody understands is, when you effectively find a way to manage these kinds of interactions, it can actually be quite dangerous. The narcissist is using you to regulate their emotions. They are purging these uncomfortable feelings onto you and blaming you for them. And if that doesn't work for them, their behavior is going to escalate in some way, because they don't know any other way to regulate their emotions. They don't know any other way to make themselves feel better, and they don't want to learn any other way. I have to add, for anybody that thinks they're going to help the narcissist regulate their emotions in a better way, they are not interested in any methods that include any form of accountability. So before I give you any suggestions on how to manage these types of situations, I have to warn you that not engaging in these arguments and not being the emotional toilet that they are used to going to is possibly going to put you in a dangerous situation, or possibly going to cause the narcissist to go to somebody else in the household, maybe somebody much younger and more vulnerable, because they've got to use somebody else. They've got to use someone who's vulnerable to purge these emotions onto. So I just need you to be aware of that. And this is why there is no good solution here. There is no magic formula that you can just use that's going to just solve this problem and make it all manageable, because you're either going to get dragged into their drama, and you're going to get dragged into these exhausting, pointless, endless arguments that cost you an enormous amount of time and emotional energy, or you're going to end up in a situation with a narcissist who is becoming increasingly agitated, angry, and dangerous, unless you are able to just completely remove yourself from this person's vicinity, from where this person has any access to you. That being said, when a narcissist tries to pick a fight with you, there is an acronym from Al-Anon that a lot of you have probably heard of, called No JADE, JADE. And this works really great with antagonistic narcissists. And that is no justifying, no arguing, no defending, and no explaining. Every single one of these methods, justifying, arguing, defending, and explaining, are ways of trying to reason with somebody who doesn't want to reason with you. Ways of trying to reason with somebody who only wants the argument to escalate. And that's why doing any of these four things makes things worse. It drags you into a whirlpool that's getting stronger and stronger. These types of arguments with narcissists is kind of like playing ball, throwing a ball back and forth. The narcissist says something like, "Why'd you leave the hallway light on?" And when you say something that justifies, argues, defends, or explains, like, what do you, well, I needed it on so I could see what was across the hall, so I was putting the laundry away. you've just thrown the ball back at them. So they could throw the ball back at you and say something like, how many times do I have to tell you to turn the light off? And you throw the ball back by saying something like, I don't remember you telling me to turn the hallway light off. What are you talking about? Then they throw it back by saying, that's because you never listened to me. And then you throw it back by saying something like, what do you mean? I listen to you all the time. What are you talking about? Okay. And this just goes nowhere. Just throwing this ball back and forth. An effective way to stop arguing with a narcissist or to manage arguments with a narcissist is to stop throwing that ball back and forth. So when they throw the ball at you, when they say, why'd you leave the hallway light on? You don't engage in the argument. You say something like, oh, because I was doing the laundry, instead of justifying, arguing, defending, or explaining. And when they say something like, how many times do I have to tell you to turn the light off? You say, oh, I don't know. Did you tell me to turn it off before? Yes, I've told you 1,000 times. Oh, I must not have heard you. You never listen to me. Okay, I guess I better do better at that. See how it's not, you're not arguing, you're not justifying, arguing, defending, or explaining. You're just listening and responding in a calm, non-emotional, non-defensive way. You're not allowing this argument to escalate. You're making them do all the work of escalating this argument, and it's really hard to do when the other person isn't arguing back. Now, some people might feel like remaining so calm and basically agreeing, not arguing, just agreeing, like, oh, you told me 1,000 times before? Huh, I must not have heard you. Or, oh, I never listened to you? I guess I better pay attention to that. That somehow you're letting them off the hook, you're letting them get away with something, and that standing up for yourself means arguing back. Standing up for yourself and arguing back is a way of not letting them off the hook. It's a way of making them pay for treating you this way. But that is not how narcissists work, because narcissists want you to argue. They want you to get upset. That is no way to teach a narcissist a lesson, because narcissists do not learn lessons. You cannot teach a narcissist a lesson. And standing up for yourself by arguing only hurts you, and it only encourages the narcissist to keep doing this. When you argue with a narcissist, when you justify, argue, defend, or explain yourself, you are validating them. You're validating whatever they're yelling at you about, because you're showing it the respect of arguing with it. I've used the analogy before. If a 3-year-old called you a poopy head, you wouldn't spend 3 hours arguing with the 3-year-old that you're not a poopy head and explaining and arguing and defending yourself for 3 hours trying to convince this 3-year-old that you're not a poopy head, because you understand that the argument doesn't deserve that kind of respect. It's just silly nonsense coming from a 3-year-old. It's the same when a narcissist picks a fight with you. When you spend all this time arguing with them and defending yourself, you're giving it respect, and that validates the narcissist's argument. It also helps them victimize themselves. When you're yelling at them, when you lose your cool because they've provoked you so much, when you lose your cool and you start yelling, that helps them feel like they're really the victim here, because all they were doing was trying to tell you to turn the hallway light off like they've done 1,000 times before in their imagination. And now you're getting mad at them because you never listened to them. So when you hold them accountable by arguing back, you're validating them and you're helping them feel like the victim. You're helping them make this case for themselves. And remember, they did all this in the first place to help themselves convince themselves that all these negative emotions they have are your fault. You're the bad guy here. You're responsible for the uncomfortable way they feel about themselves. And now you're getting angry. You're yelling at them. Maybe you're insulting them. And this is just further proof to them that you really are the bad guy. You really are to blame for all these horrible emotions they have. And last but certainly not least, when a narcissist is able to provoke you, when a narcissist is able to say things that push your buttons and upset you and push you over the edge, it makes them feel like they have control over you, control over your emotions. And that's really intoxicating to them. That makes them feel way better about themselves. That might be the whole reason they pick the fight with you, because they're feeling insecure about themselves, they're feeling on edge, they're feeling uncomfortable, And maybe it's not even about blaming you for that, but it's just picking a fight and proving to themselves that even if they feel worthless and unimportant, well, obviously they're relevant and important enough to make you angry. They have control over you, and your reaction proves that. The real way to hold on to your power, to stand up for yourself, the most powerful thing that you can do in this type of situation is to let them go off on whatever they're going off on, and to not allow it to get you worked up, to not allow yourself to get roped into this pointless argument. And the way that you do that is to separate yourself from it and to let them be wrong. Okay? Let them be wrong about you. Let them be wrong about accusing you of never listening to them, or saying that they've told you to turn off the hallway light 1,000 times when you don't remember them ever telling you that. Let them be wrong. Let them mishear you. Don't repeat yourself 1,000 times. They heard you the first time. Let them misunderstand. Let them judge you the wrong way. Let them think what they want to think. Let them blame you in their head. Let go of the need to control this narrative. Let go of the need to control the perception of somebody who spends every waking minute trying to figure out ways to make themselves feel better about themselves at your expense or at the expense of other people. And that is really how you stand up for yourself. And if you're angry at them for doing this to you, which I don't blame you, this is the best way to teach them a lesson or to get your revenge, if there is any such thing. This is the best way to really stick it to them, is to show them that they don't matter. Their opinion doesn't matter to you. Their misunderstanding doesn't matter to you. They think that you don't care about them, or they think that you're lying to them, or they think that you never listen, but you don't care that they think that. That is the best way to really show them that they can't treat you this way. Now, none of this is going to change them. So if you go into this remaining calm, not arguing, just nodding your head and agreeing with what they're saying in a non-emotional, almost bored kind of way, none of this is going to change them. So if you go into this thinking that this is going to solve a problem, the only thing it's going to do is help you. It's going to help you keep your sanity and help you from getting sucked into these energy draining, endless, pointless arguments. The narcissist is never going to change. The narcissist is never going to stop doing this. The only thing you can control is the way that they are able to do this to you. You cannot teach them a lesson. You cannot make them stop. You can only control the way that it's affecting you. And I know that's easier said than done, but you can start practicing not reacting or not allowing their opinions and their false, unfair accusations to matter to you so much, because they really don't mean anything. Someone that really cares about you will react in a more positive, constructive way when you stand up for yourself after they've done something disrespectful. Somebody that really cares about you, when they engage in an argument with you, they will want to find some kind of resolution. They will want to work things out. They will respond to your, even your angry responses to them. They will care when you're angry. They won't like that. They won't want to upset you. But narcissists, they don't work that way. They want you to be upset. They want you to get worked up. And this is why, as soon as you realize that you're with someone who doesn't want to resolve things, who doesn't care about the health of the relationship, who doesn't care if they upset you, who doesn't care if they ruin your whole day or keep you up all night for no reason at all other than to make themselves feel better. When you realize you're with this type of person, you realize that arguing will never solve anything. Arguing will always only make things worse. Arguing will always be a waste of your time. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.